Hello and welcome back to my Nills series. So a quick question I wanted to ask you guys is how often should I aim to release episodes? Weekly, bi-weekly? If you have an opinion, please let me know. So picking up from last episode, I'm still trying to train up my range, and honestly there are not many quests that offers range XP like I said earlier. Only I would say maybe 2 are worth considering, like if you're just going for range XP. So the first one was Shadow of the Storm. I did that last episode. It gives you 10k XP in a combat skill of choice, so you don't have to use it on range, but I did it on range because it doesn't have a range requirement, so it got me from like level 1 to 27 range. A good quest for Mage XP is the Watchtower quest, although at this point I don't really need Mage XP because I only plan, well at this point I only plan to get up to level 35 Mage, and that lets me use Chaos spells, which is the Firebolt spells. And I plan to use that alongside with the Chaos Gauntlet, which if you didn't know, the Chaos Gauntlet gives +3 damage to Chaos spell. So like say if I'm using a Firebolt with the Chaos Gauntlet on, it pretty much gives me the same power as if I was using like a Earth Blast, except Earth Blast requires a Death Rune and Chaos spell is, well, cheaper. But yeah, I don't need to train my magic level up at this point because I could already cast Firebolt, but 15k XP in magic is pretty decent as a quest reward. For the second notable range quest is the Temple of Ikov. It requires 40 range, so you do have to do a bit of training because I had to train from level 27 to 40 to be able to do the quest, but definitely worth doing because the quest gives 10.5k range XP and it's fairly simple. Also, you don't have to do the quest, but then in this area you could get the Boots of Lightness, which it helps for running around. So early on, getting a hold of law runes and training up magic just helps a ton for getting around the map because it teleports you instantly to a location, and if you're doing quests, then that just helps a whole lot more because you're actively running from location to location. But since I haven't really gotten a drop from Barrows yet because I got like 40 dry, so I'm still trying to train up range so I could go back to Barrows. I've yet to make money, well, enough to get a decent amount of law runes, so it just came down to law running to get law runes. Which wasn't too bad, because when I did law running, there were only a few runners and even less crafters. So it was civilized. People lined up and respected each other for who got there first, but I think eventually crafters had much more runners than they actually needed, so people resorted to cutting and the whole thing fell apart. Well, I don't mean that it doesn't exist anymore, but just it's more chaotic than it needs to be. So, if you've actually done law running before or know what it's like, what do you guys think about this? Like, say there are people just skipping to the front of the line, would you advocate to keep civility, or would you say, like, screw it, just, like, the heck with it? So, yeah. The few times I tried to keep, like this happened to me quite a bit before I just stopped doing the whole law running thing. Like the few times I tried to keep it civil, but when the crafters came, they seemed to not care at all, as all they want is just XP. So I just left, continued questing, and that was the end of it. So there are a lot of minor quests that give some combat XP of some sort. Not a lot. I'm not really sure if I should mention it because they're more like if you want quest points and some small amount of XP, sure. But if not, then it's kind of borderline not worth doing these. But so with the introduction of construction, finally there are a few things if you ever want to plan out your house. There's a few useful things you probably want to consider getting. So I guess I'll start with low to high requirements. There is first the Mounted Glory, which has, once you mount it on your wall, it gets unlimited charges. You can use it as much as you want. Now you could get it back, but infinite charge is really, really useful. Now I don't have any of these because construction does cost money to train, so I won't really have any of this for a while, but the Mounted Glory will really help for getting around, especially once you get a prayer altar, because then like say you finish a Dagannoth trip or a Barrows trip, you can teleport to your house, recharge prayer, and teleport straight to a bank nearby. Next one is more optional, is teleport portals. They can bring you to various cities, but this is especially useful once you start using the Ancient Spellbook, but I probably won't get around to that until I start PKing with Ancients. But this is probably not as useful as the Mounted Glory. The Mounted Glory really, really helps a lot. Then there's an optional prayer altar. It does not have to be a gilded altar. It could just be a normal altar. Like if you decided right after like trips to Barrows or Dagannoth King, you can teleport to your house, pray at the altar, and use the Mounted Glory to bank. Really useful. But it's not really required because you could just... It takes a bit longer if you want to like home teleport to Lumbridge and then use the altar there, then you have to run to a bank. It's a bit more work, but small benefit there. And the last one is really more situational, as it's only really useful if you use degradable armor like Barrows, where you can use Barrow on armor repair stand in your house and it will repair it at a discounted rate compared to if you went to like Bob's Axes. You get a discount with using the armor repair stand at your house up to 50% depending on how high your smithing level is. So yeah, there's that benefit if you just so happen to be able to use Barrow armor. I probably won't be able to use that for a while, so I probably won't be getting it anytime soon. But so this being old school RuneScape, doing some of the quests the second time around, especially the harder quests, seems like a bit more simplistic because I already know a general gist of how the quest is supposed to go. Like, for example, one small favor, when I ask people about this quest, people are like, it took hours. But for me, it took like hour and a half-ish to finish it. And most of it was just running around talking to people. Like, basically, you go to 10 different people in a certain order, kill a monster, and repeat the talking to 10 people but backwards because this is one small favor. But anyway, after completing the quest, which didn't take too long, I suppose. So what the quest does give is 2 10k XP lamps, so 20k XP and a skill of choice, and I used it on Herblore, which will save me a bit of money. And what the quest also gives is a keyring, because Jesus, how many keys are there in the game? And it's also weird that it lets you put in the weirdest key. Like, there's that one key where it's like the hot cold key, where it's like it directs you to a treasure loot, but then you could like feel the key if you're hotter or colder to the location. It lets you put that key. But then it doesn't let you put in the key that you get from the Hero's Quest, which lets you open the stuff for the candlesticks. So there are certain things that not everybody knows, like I don't even know myself. I'm going to have to look this up later to learn about it, but if you're planning to do the Monkey Madness sub-quest for the recipe for Disaster Quest, you're going to need 70 cooking, or some way to boost up to 70. And one way is through drinking a Chef's Delight, well, the mature version, which will boost you from level 66 to 70, which is what I'm pretty sure I did. And to get it, you can either buy it from a player, which can cost a lot, or you can make it yourself. So I think I tried to make it a few times, but I think it's like one of those things where it just comes down to chance, where when you make it, it has a chance to be mature, which is the more valuable one, or you just get the normal version, which doesn't boost as high, but it could be something to look into. Because those ales, they cost a lot, like over 100k each. So yeah, I guess I'll look into that within the next few episodes. So I saw a few videos on, actually it was only one video, but it was on Machinima's YouTube channel about it was Draw My Life, pretty standard, but it was with a gaming twist about a character in gaming rather than just the person. So I thought that was pretty cool. I know there are some channels that kind of do something like this, like the lore channel, where they go over a person's lore in about a minute. So from that I thought, what interesting characters in Gildenor have an interesting story? So I thought about Bob the Cat, who used to be human and, well, he has a lot of interesting adventures. And as you can tell from the footage, a lot of what RuneScape is like a lot of small references to pop culture, as there's like a Titanic in here somewhere. I think it was Titanic. And I guess it's not overly serious, it's just like an homage to the original. And finally, now that I've trained range up a tad bit, I thought I would try out Barrow again with killing all 6 Barrow brothers compared to just killing 5 like I did before. Because when I only did 5, I went like 30-40 chests without getting a single item. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. I did use a few prayer pots, which wasn't too detrimental to the trip, although I think at the time I purchased prayer pots when they were really cheap, before people actually started to do PVM, so I got a really nice price on it. So I only used like 3 prayer pots per like 12 doses for 1 Barrows chest, which at the time was okay for the cost, but now I think it's gonna cost a whole lot more. Although since then I've figured out a method, which I should, oh my god, I like completely forgot to do that Barrows guide, but I guess I should do it after this video, because right now I actually get to do Barrows. So in 07, the #1 easiest money making method accessible at early levels where you actually gain XP. Now I added the gain XP because I think the easiest money making is probably whiteberry picking and law running. But those you don't actually gain XP, so you only do that at early levels until you can actually make money, so that you can do Barrows, so that you actually train your combat while you're making money. But anyway, the number one easiest money making method, in my opinion, accessible at early levels, is Barrows. You're able to technically do it at level 1 mage, which I kind of showed in the last episode. But I would recommend at least level 8 mage before you actually try this out, because Fire Strike maxes 8, whereas Wind Strike maxes 2. So it's like you hit 4 times as high, and it's only like level 1 to 8. Not a big difference, and worth the 4 times efficiency. So because of all the safe spots, that's all you really need. Although higher HP is probably recommended, or else you may die a few times when the brothers spawn. But aside from that, you can technically do this at level 3 combat, which is why I started with Barrows, which is also why I'll link a guide of this when I finish making it. So the good thing about Barrows, even though it can be done at early levels, is it's still going to be one of the best money making methods for a very long time. Chaos Elemental, high requirements, it's kind of risky if you make money or not. It kind of depends. Well, there's a small thing about if you get PK'd or not. It depends if you're going to get teleported around a lot. Then there's Dagannoth Kings. Dagannoth Kings is good money, but then you need defense levels. You need it, or you're just not going to stay there that long. And even so, well, it doesn't mean that you can't go without it. It just means it's kind of high risk, high reward. Like if you were to go there with around 40 defense to Dagannoth Kings, you're kind of betting on that you're going to get an item to pay for the supplies, which most of the time you won't, and you're probably going to lose money. But I know there are people who did it at early levels, like when it came out, and got an item. Hooray for them, they actually made money. But the few times I tried it, I lost a decent amount. But yeah, they made a gamble if they would get an item or not. They made money. In that occasion, I didn't. Then there's like the Calphite Queen, which is good money making method if you're going for the D chain, but I wouldn't recommend it if you don't have Varrock or a whip, which isn't too expensive, but that does require cash to start out. Whereas Barrows, you just need Rune, and you can rate kill 5 of the 6 Barrow brothers. So my first trip back to Barrows, after going like 30-40 Barrows chest dry, I left Barrows to train up range, which I did. Now that I could kill Rems, now that I finally can, the first Barrow chest I come back, I do get an item, but it's only a Tor X hammer, which I'm pretty sure it's not worth anything. At the most, it's probably worth its alch value, which I'm pretty sure it is. Which, like, what the hell, did people even use this item before? Huh. So that put me off from doing Barrows for a bit. I did go finish the trip, and I did another after that. I didn't get anything, but at the least, it's an item. So if you didn't know already, I'm kind of saving up for a drop tab, so I'm not going to sell the Barrows. Even if I get a good Barrows item, unless it's like stupidly high, I'm probably not going to sell it. Unless the price is just going to keep on dropping if I hold on to it, I'm probably just going to save it up for a drop tab and have like maybe check how much I make from like 1,000 Barrows chests or however much I eventually make. So that's all for this episode. I can now do all 6 Barrow brothers, so I'm going to be pushing forward a little faster. I kind of messed up on the last episode when setting up the preview for the next episode. Not sure if that kind of makes sense, but that was supposed to be for this episode, not the last episode. So yeah, but as always, thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.